I'm Jim Clifford, Director of Sonnet Impact, the impact-focused research, financial, strategic and design consultancy. I'm here with Jake Kemp to introduce our research into home adaptations. It's an introduction, so I do hope you'll read the report and do let us hear your thoughts, comments and questions. You can visit our website and use the contact forms on that, or use our email by picking that up from this lead slide. In 2021, we were commissioned by Foundations UK, the sector body for home improvement agencies, to explore and explain the value that they and the home adaptations they bring have in the lives of residents and communities. In times when the NHS long-term plan for responding to an ageing population and a widening range of health conditions and disabilities is to support people to be independent for longer, we need homes that can be adapted intelligently and with care as our needs change. We can build new housing stock, but need to be able to adapt the existing stock as a higher priority and a more practical solution. HIAs bring two things. Firstly, they provide client-centred support delivered in a person's own home with the expertise to know how to make physical changes to that person's home. Secondly, they're able to advise people when and how to apply for disabled facilities grants, DFGs, that are available to fund specific repairs, improvements and adaptations to their homes. So what were we asking here? This research explores the stories of the people helped by home improvement agencies to find, fund and use adaptations to their homes, enabling them to stay in the homes they love in the areas and near to the people they know is hugely valuable at a human level. However, it is all the more essential when accessible properties are not being constructed quickly enough to meet the needs of a growing older and disabled population. And nor is it economically sensible to construct afresh when needs can be met at lower cost in the houses which are already built and occupied. So what is the nature and the potential value of the impact that can be achieved through the provision of support, advice, aids and adaptations by HIAs? What makes it happen? What are the key aspects of the HIA's work that create that value? Why do we need to know all that? Well, it would enable government policy to obtain a better balance between new build and adaptation. HIAs and others could develop a deeper understanding of how their work translates into longer-term life changes for people. And this could also encourage other agencies, such as the health services, to signpost people to HIA support. The HIAs themselves would also have a better understanding of what is most important in what they do, and so how to focus on that and improve it. Where there is any reluctance or cost sensitivity from those funding the adaptations, a balanced view of the consequent value of savings could be very persuasive. For those who hadn't thought about home adaptation at all, a clear evidenced and vivid explanation of what that involves and its benefits could inform and win future advocates. But before we dive into the research, let's be clear what we're talking about. We're talking about impact here. In simplicity, that is change in people's lives and effects on community and environment as a result of a given activity. The change is known as an outcome and ideally meets a recognised need in the person concerned. It may be a primary outcome which arises pretty directly and fairly soon after the activity that caused it, or a secondary one, the follow-on benefits, the and so. At its heart, a home adaptation can allow a person to stay in their own home with a degree of independence for longer than might otherwise be the case. This is central to a person's well-being, to be in their own chosen space with which they're familiar. It is also, as I mentioned before, less costly, with the alternative leaving carers and other support systems remote and having to be replaced by paid-for services. Given the challenges in constructing property quickly enough to house those that need it, let alone to make it suitable to the needs of people who require particular layouts and facilities, we need to adapt what we have. Indeed, even if we have purpose-built property, that itself needs to be adapted and changed to meet the changing needs of the occupants as time goes by. So, at so many levels, home adaptation is indeed essential. So let's look at how we've approached this. It is a mixed methods piece of research that builds on what has gone before and what is known from other arenas. The other work it builds upon includes that by Northumbria University, largely an ethnographic study of the fitting and use of home adaptations of different types for the elderly. From our own work on the value of a social tenancy, looking at the factors within tenancies that bring value and how they affect the people, old and young alike, and communities concerned, and selected costs from HACT's Social Value Bank, as well as from the value of social tenancy and other sources. Together, of course, with Foundation UK's own research and development with HIAs. It follows mainstream approaches used across a wide variety of types of social and environmental projects to evaluate the effects of them. As such, it's certainly new knowledge and new findings, exciting and interesting ones, we believe, but the methodologies are tried and tested so we can have confidence in what we're discovering. Our work was approached in 3 stages. First of all, understanding what happens and digesting existing literature about it so we could build on what is already known and develop that into a joined-up narrative. Secondly, exploring the stories of changed lives through 4 personas that exemplify different types of people and situations on which HIAs are typically focusing, and understanding what creates the changes experienced by them. This is an action research process in workshops of HIA and Foundation staff sharing and exploring stories together. As the stories emerged and were developed, key aspects were underpinned with evidence from a variety of sources, topped up with a few additional interviews to make sure. Thirdly, then, evaluating those storylines, identifying the outcomes and who benefits from them, and attaching financial values to elements of those. Here we've been looking for monetary cost savings or benefits arising, savings of other valuable resources, and of course identified outcomes that haven't been valued but are still very real and very valuable. Throughout, we're testing our emerging findings against the benchmarks of other research material and also assessing whether, where reasonable estimates or assumptions have been made in the evaluations, the overall results are not overexposed to these. We're seeking to ensure that potential areas for error in assumptions are not material to the overall view, and indeed we're satisfied that that is the case. So, what did we discover?
In the process of this study, we have identified 5 key needs found by HIAs to apply to people whose houses they adapt. We consider these both in the ways an HIA can assist a person in meeting needs in those areas, and also the impact that is achievable as a result. The 5 key needs as shown on this chart are staying stable on your feet, poor mobility, personal safety, everyday tasks and functions, and self-care. If these needs are met by outcomes, positive changes for the residents, not only are there primary outcomes in terms of physical security and well-being, but there are also secondary outcomes, or the "and so I can" element that can arise from them. As an example, Rachel gets rails fitted at strategic positions on the route between her chair and the front door. She doesn't necessarily use them, but being confident that she can, she is happy to encourage friends and neighbours to pop round to see her. This keeps her happier and more mobile, which further prolongs the time that she doesn't always need the rails. One rail, and the primary outcome of being able to grab it if she needs, has led to all those "and so" effects. We have seen that informed choice is central to delivering benefit in each of the areas of need, and the support for this choice is a key role played by the HIAs. The way that people can be helped by an HIA's involvement can be split into 5 headings. This diagram is designed to show how each element builds on that below it, ultimately resulting in a person's well-being improving. By well-being here, we mean all aspects of their lives, how they think, feel and function alone and also in their community. If you read from the bottom upwards then, the HIA's knowledge and information means that the individual is aware of the support and types of adaptations that can benefit them. They can make good choices. The HIA is then able to help the individual access financial assistance, like a disabled facilities grant, to fund their chosen adaptations. Also, by spending on the right adaptation, they avoid wasting money on what won't work. The adaptations are made and the individual's physical well-being benefits. For example, a handrail means they are less likely to hurt themselves falling over, and are likely to move around more as they are more confident. As a result of their improving physical well-being, their sense of purpose and personal identity is easier for them to maintain or possibly reclaim. Lastly, as a result, their mental well-being can improve significantly from the potential to improve their relationships with their family and friends around them. We then map these 5 headings onto the theories of change for each of the 5 needs from the star diagram. A theory of change links what is done to the change it achieves and matches that to the person's need. It's not just about what happens, but why. Laid out in this format, they are designed to be read from left to right across each separately coloured row, as set out in the diagram at the top of this slide. As you can see in the scaled down theory of change for staying stable on your feet, each of the needs, activities, outputs and outcomes are categorised into one of the 5 headings we just walked through, cutting horizontally across the table. Those are knowledge and information in yellow, physical well-being in green, mental well-being in blue, maintaining purpose and personal identity in orange, and lastly, financial assistance in grey. Having built out the theories of change for each of the areas of need, a number of findings became clear for each. To give you an idea, we have picked out a selection of key findings from across all 5 areas. First, small compromises in mobility quickly spiral, but small adaptations can generate significant outcomes. Being prone to falls leads to fear of moving around, which leads to less movement, leading to sitting still for too long, so further losses in mobility and muscle wastage, and isolation, and loss of social contact. You can see that this list could go on and on. A one-off small adaptation can open up changes in day-to-day lifestyle that have wide-ranging effects and significant changes to costs of future support. Second, the HIA is key to knowing what can be done and how it can be funded. HIAs and their caseworkers hold vast knowledge of how a person can be helped. This knowledge means that the choice, accessibility and funding are not barriers to receiving help. Discussions with caseworkers can lead to better, longer-term solutions. They can also serve to allay any fears around the cost of the adaptations, because the HIA are able to help them apply for disability facilities grants and other forms of funding. Third, technology plays a key role in confidence of personal safety, which has the potential to increase its impact in the future as new technologies emerge and access to it is increased. Many of the adaptations or protective measures involve relatively new technologies, for example sensors connected to a helpline and the emergency services. As more technologies are developed, become cheaper and more accessible in their usability, the way they are used can create a bigger safety net for people. Fourth, where reliance upon family or carers is reduced, this provides an opportunity for the return of a balanced dynamic in relationships. Balanced relationships of mutual support are widely recognised as good for the all-round well-being of both parties. Where one becomes very reliant on the other for their care, that mutual support may be reduced or lost. The cared for person may feel they've become a burden, and the carer may see themselves as a carer's role rather than in a relationship. Adaptations to maintain and prolong independence and self-care can bring back elements of this healthy balance. And fifth, finding an adapted normality maintains personal identity and self-respect and underpins the continuation of positive and social contacts. A suitable home adaptation may enable something similar to the person's previous lifestyle to be maintained. This ability, still to be me, is key to identity and well-being. A person who is unable to keep themselves clean is less likely to want to socialise with their friends and family, and sadly, vice versa. Personal pride can also make them reluctant to ask for help. Ultimately, it is not uncommon to see people withdrawing from social groups, engaging only in minimal contacts and becoming lonely. All of this can be avoided with slight changes empowered by HIAs. So what about the financial value of the outcomes being achieved? Foundations had already developed 4 personas designed to represent 4 regularly encountered customer and circumstance, often seen by the HIAs. These are broadly representative of the HIA customer base, and their selection is based upon quantitative evidence. The idea is that they are detailed enough to give a flavour of the person, with their description going beyond the immediate requirements of an organisation's engagement, giving a glimpse of the person behind the facts. The 4 personas are Rachel, a proudly independent 78-year-old woman; Mohammed and Azia, a couple in their 30s with 2 young sons, one of whom has learning difficulties and requires a wheelchair; 65-year-old Arthur, who is fiercely protective of his own space and company, but has chronic kidney failure and requires dialysis 3 times a week; and lastly, Shirley and Tony, the example you can see on screen, for whom their primary concern is to be able to continue enjoying their sociable lifestyle despite Tony's poor health and mobility issues. Each persona has been storyboarded into a timeline of what their future could look like, examining 2 different streams, one in which the HIA has been able to assist them, and one where the HIA interaction has not occurred, or has occurred much later on. Continuing with the example of Shirley and Tony, here you can see the 2 very different streams. The green line represents the course in which the couple have been proactive and engaged with the HIA early, whilst the blue line is the story of what their lives could look like without the intervention of an HIA and getting the adaptations that they need. The activities and outcomes are discussed in boxes along the timelines, which also explains the impact this has on our couple and the people important to them. At points along the timelines, there are cost tickets highlighting costs that are incurred as decisions are made. To use Tony's new shower, on the green line as an example, this carries a cost of £6,745. For each stream, long-term implications are shown at the end alongside a total figure of costs incurred along the way. You can see that the green with HIA stream has a total of £7,649, whilst the dark blue without stream carries a far greater cost of over £300,000, much of which can be attributed to the loss of earnings they experience when Shirley is forced to give up work to become Tony's full-time carer. This stark difference in comparative cost is mirrored in each of our 4 case studies, and is a powerful way of demonstrating both the financial and human impact an HIA intervention can have. The right-hand side of this table shows ratios between the storylines where there have been adaptations and those where the HIAs did not get involved. Arthur's story has the smallest ratio, but if you read the detail of his story in the report, you'll see that he is able to have his kidney dialysis at home instead of at the hospital, which still incurs a significant cost. Here's a few final thoughts from Jim and me about what has stood out to us. First, the role of the HIA before and after adaptation is central to its success. Empowering the customer before with their full knowledge and the potential solution to their needs and how to get it. And then after installation of the adaptation, we have observed that relationships with customers extend to supporting them with the developing and changing needs as trusted and reliable advisors. Second is the link between confidence and mobility. A person being confident in their mobility is going to move around more, exercising and improving their mobility and therefore increasing confidence. Confidence inspires the raft of secondary outcomes that we have spoken about in detail. Third, from confidence and mobility come independence and considerable financial value. As the storylines demonstrate, independence brings about impact across people's lives. These impacts carry financial savings for society and avoids the higher cost of supporting a passive, cared-for person. Fourth, the impact of independence is felt by the person in need and also those around them. Independence is fundamental to each of the 5 areas of need, and if it is lost in one area, the impacts can quickly spiral downwards to start to bring negative impacts in other areas. And lastly, the cost of adaptation may be small, but with the HIA to focus it, the value may be disproportionately large. The ratios on the previous slide show just how large the difference in value can be. Even for Arthur, whose ratio is markedly smaller than the others, his story still represents £100,000 worth of saving. We do hope you'll get a copy of the report and enjoy reading it. Please reach out to us at sonnetimpact.co.uk or via Foundations to give us your views. Thank you for listening.